It's amazing how quickly Christmas comes now. As an adult, it's totally different when you're a kid, but then it goes just as fast. We're past Christmas already, which means it's time to move from the holiday season to Returnuary. I was reading all about this last night and this morning. You would not believe the numbers the retail industry is talking about with returns this year. It's unbelievable. I thought it was a mistake. Apparently, we all buy stuff to just return it later on, but that's okay because it opens up things and reasons for you to be able to explain this to people that bought you something nice. Anyway, we'll get into that. We'll talk about that as well. We're going to talk about NFL on Netflix, not because maybe you're an NFL fan or not, but where it's going in the future. Sports programming and halftime programming. Did you see the Beyonce Bowl? Don't know what I think about that. Very little to talk about in news, thankfully, but RFK Jr. made some headlines. Well, I should actually say the headlines made news about him with his concept of banning pharmaceutical ads on television. What would that world look like? I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. I think we all think it would be amazing. Too much money involved. But if he ever did get that done, wouldn't that be incredible? And I didn't see this personally, but people told me about it, and it actually was a thing. You can't shorten It's a Wonderful Life. No. It's a 3.5, it might be 4-hour commitment. I don't know what it is, but you have to watch that thing start to finish, and you can't cut anything out of it. But Amazon Prime managed to. An actual like an old-style Reader's Digest version of It's a Wonderful Life. Just don't show it then. That's all I'm saying. That's all. All right. I love that term, Returnuary, because that's actually what it is. Listen to this. The retail industry is saying, this is all published now, that they're expecting this year for whatever. I think mostly because most of our shopping is done online now, right? We've passed that point. 17% higher returns expected this year. And I saw that and they said, okay, well, that makes sense. A little bit higher than last year. Buying's up, spending is up. So that naturally would lead to returns being up. That all makes sense. And then they did a survey. A couple of them, actually, and they all turned out to be pretty consistent. 40% of us, and this is one of those national phone surveys, so they do actually poll a lot of people. 40% of us plan to return at least one item we got for Christmas this year. You can include Hanukkah in this. And by the way, happy Hanukkah, everybody. It's underway. 40%. Well, that's a lot. And I started thinking, I wonder what that adds up to. Well, what is that as far as total money into? Because that's a huge reinsertion into the economy, right? Things that were bought but returned, it kind of screws things up. Here's the number. $890 billion accounted for returns, retail returns, from now until, well, I guess the rest of January, going into next month, I guess. $890 billion. And I saw that and I said, that can't be right. There's no possible way. Sure enough, the original news source did the story for this year in the updated. It is NBCNewYork.com. NBCNY.com. And they're the ones that coined the term Returnuary. $890 billion getting flushed back into the retail industry. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of people. So I think this whole thing, if this is all right, and I think it actually is, believe it or not, you don't have to worry about any more. If there's 40% of us returning stuff that you got for Christmas, or maybe if you got like a Hanukkah gift and you return this later on, any kind of gift, I think we've reached culturally a different point in time. You don't have to worry about explaining something to somebody. If 10 people are in the room and 4 of them return something, it's kind of commonplace. So remember that whole thing? Like if you had a conscience, you always worry about, they got me that gift, but I don't want to let them know about it. And how do I explain that? How do I explain that I didn't like it or I didn't fit or something? I think it's gone. I really do. If 40% of America is returning stuff from today on, all the way through next month, I don't think you have to feel bad about returning things anymore because you're not the only one in the pool anymore. It's like so commonplace. That's why I'm just saying, I'm just suggesting, you know what always fits and is always the right color? Money and gift cards. That's just I'm just adding that in there, okay? It used to be, that's another thing that changed as well, by the way. That changed with Cyber Monday. You can't get a gift card. It's so impersonal. The hell with that. It's convenient and awesome. That's another thing that changed. You don't have to return that. It's good for everything. Love it. All right, this happened on NFL Sunday. which is Christmas Day now. Did you happen to see this? And this isn't really about being an NFL fan or a football fan or whatever. I think it's really just where television programming is going. So live sports is the last real live thing that you probably, if you're into it, need to see while it's happening, right? But it's all becoming like a la carte, you know? Used to be back in the old days, you'd look it up and see when your team is playing and if it's on the CBS national game or if it's on Fox or whatever it is and kind of arrange from there. Well, then the NFL package came along, and that was a different kind of thing. If you're out of market and you want to watch your team like I do, and you got to, you'd pay for the NFL package, and YouTube got a hold of that. Then Amazon started showing some games, and now we've got Netflix showing games. So the first thing is, really, sports are becoming like everything else. Even though that would still be live, it's like a la carte, right? So no matter what, whoever winds up in 5 years, 10 years from now having live sports, maybe that's Amazon, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's some other thing coming down the road. Maybe it's just all on X. Maybe Elon gets the contracts. Whatever it is, it's all going to be a la carte. So it won't be one schedule of games. You'll just order that game. You'll order that event. You'll order that thing, whatever. Some of the testing on that is already happening. So Netflix had an NFL Christmas Day. And it didn't, this part wasn't their fault. They got stuck with a couple of really bad blowout games. Not if you're a fan of Kansas City or Baltimore, because the first game was Kansas City destroying Pittsburgh 29-10. Second game in the afternoon, again, both on Christmas, was Baltimore over Houston 31-3. It would have benefited Netflix if they got more competitive games, obviously, right? But they can't really control that. They get what they get, and it is what it is. It's kind of funky to find in the first place because just out of curiosity, just wanted to see while we're getting ready for Christmas and having people over, I wanted to venture over to Netflix and see how that's going. To me, it was really clunky, and maybe that was just my internet connection. It was really clunky. I thought the sound was kind of weird and kind of bad, and that was one thing. I'm like, okay, whatever. It should be easier to find anyway. You go over to Netflix or you do the on-command, boop, Netflix, and it comes up, and the game should be right there. Had to search a little bit more than I expected. That wasn't good, but I'm sure that they can iron that out, right? And again, they can't control what games they get, a couple of different blowout games, but I'm sure their ratings were huge. Just built into the fact that you've got fans of these four teams, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Houston, automatically, they're going to be watching that on Christmas, most likely as people don't have to work in their home and they're getting ready for their Christmas event. So Netflix used this as an opportunity, and might have heard about this already, for their big halftime show, because they want to present it to the league to show that they can do a huge, massive event in case Netflix gets a Super Bowl someday. The second game with Baltimore and Houston featured the Beyonce Bowl. Well, right there, that's kind of pretentious, isn't it? I mean, it's week, 16, 17 in the NFL? And you're calling it a bowl already? Halftime? So this was halftime in Houston, where she's from, her hometown. And Beyonce does her performance. Here's a little bit of that. Okay. That's enough of that. I'm done with that. That's not my cup of tea, but it might be yours. And the Beyonce is huge, obviously. So there are plenty of people, millions of people who absolutely loved it. Millions of people hated it. It wasn't really their thing. And there she is. She's on a white horse, and it's a bunch of cowboy hats, I guess because it's Houston. And I think she was the one that ventured into the pop artist, the latest one that ventured into country music and kind of copped that. And she did her version of Jolene. If I was a real country artist or fan, I'd be so pissed. I really would. That they're just, because country's so big now that just all the pop artists are trying to glom onto it. But that's been the case for like decades, so that there's nothing new there. I can't help but think, though, that I think our hope now after yesterday, if anybody ever wanted to see rock again, or even just anything mainstream kind of, anything that's not that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's like guitar-based maybe, drummed, like any rock band, any classic band back. I don't think it's going to happen. After that, I think that was the final nail in the coffin for all of those hopes. A lot of us have said, you know what, there's still some great rock bands we could have for a Super Bowl halftime show. They're still out there. How about Metallica? Let's do that. Let's bring out a bunch of great, whoever's left classic rock bands to do a halftime show. Guys, I think that dream's over. I don't think the NFL is ever going to have that because I don't think that's the reach. I don't think that's the audience they're looking for. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the ratings were. That's what's going to determine that. But it was quite a production. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds of dancers on the thing. I guess I'm not the right person to ask because it's not my style of music. But for a wide appeal, and the NFL will always claim, who runs the networks, they will always claim that they're trying to reach the broadest base of an audience, right? Which I get, as they should, because like if you talk about a Super Bowl performance or even this thing, this halftime of this Netflix Christmas game, they're trying to reach the widest audience possible. My only question is that really Beyonce? You know, is that really what we just played there? Is that really the widest audience? Is it? Like, why do we automatically assume that? Because everybody I talk to, again, I've got my certain group of friends. I've got my certain group of even like listeners. I've got my family, whatever. Everybody I've talked to for years now wants some sort of rock element, some sort of rock and roll. Even like country, a classic huge country artist. Not Beyonce's country, like real country, like a George Strait country, like somebody like, or Garth. How has Garth Brooks never played a Super Bowl? I'm sure he would. I don't think they've asked him. Like, why is it automatically always like the urban style pop or hip hop? They tell us that's the widest audience appeal. Okay, I get it. I'm just saying. My feeling is after yesterday, I think the dream of a rock and roll Super Bowl is going away after that experiment. Just saying. Just my 2 cents. That's all I can give you. There was something awesome on this, though. So even though it was on Netflix, and again, this isn't all sports-oriented. It's just interesting how the media is operating these days and where live sports is going. So even though Netflix had these NFL games on Christmas Day, they still had the regular broadcast teams doing it. So the guys over from CBS were doing the, I think it was the first game, whatever it is. Ian Eagle is one of them. He's a CBS guy. He had a great line about people tuning in, not used to seeing NFL games or live sporting events on Netflix. Here he is. This was hilarious.
Ian Eagle, J.J. Watt, Nate Burleson. I don't know if somebody's like tuning into Netflix right now and thinking the kids from Stranger Things got really old.
Because that's just great. That's just a great broadcaster calling the moment for a weird kind of scene. Because Stranger Things was always on Netflix. That's what put them over the top. So I loved it. That was outstanding. All right, not to jump into too much politics because we're still, I think drunk on eggnog for God's sakes. But there was one news story that popped up over the past couple of days, and it came from the New York Times. They posted a story about RFK Jr., which they're going to continue to do, obviously. And this was probably set up to try to make him fail on this. They posted an article and the possible implications they think about RFK Jr., and this part's true. He would like very much to ban, as we're talking about television, drug ads on TV. You know the kind I'm talking about because you can't avoid them now. Remember it used to be if you were just watching like news or classic television reruns or something like that. That's where you just mostly see the drug ads because there were mostly people who are shut-ins in the house watching that. But now pharmaceutical industry is so powerful and has such a great reach. They're everywhere. So you can't afford the drug ads. You know what the ones I'm talking about. Pick any one of them with the goofy names that come up with the thing. And then the last 30 seconds of a 60-second ad is the side effects that sound a lot worse than your original condition in the first place. You know what I'm talking about. Side effects may include suicidal tendencies, dark thoughts, oily discharge, something gross. They're disgusting. Well, his point is, RFK Jr. makes the point that these drug ads, these pharmaceutical ads, cause normal people to go find less effective generic drugs because they can't afford most of the drug ads that are on the commercial for whatever condition they have. So they're sending people into a spending spree for something that's not going to work anyway. Or what he's claimed for a long time, that a lot of these pharmaceuticals aren't safe anyway. So that's his argument. I think a lot of us would agree just because we're normal people and we're tired of seeing the drug ads with all of the side effect warnings, which is just disgusting, right? It'd be nice to see. In reality, though, do you really think they'd be able to pull this off? Of all the things that RFK Jr. is going to have to do to make America healthy again, right? And we all want to see that happen. We all want to see the food supply cleaned up. This seems to be the biggest pipe dream for me. I don't know if he can get it done. Simply because of the money that's spent on this. Some of the money they spend, the pharmaceutical industry, first of all, the money they have is just astronomical. And what they spend on this advertising is incredible. And we were just talking about Netflix and network TV and Super Bowls and NFL Christmas and all this stuff. Do you think the television networks or any media outlet can afford not to run these pharmaceutical ads? By the way, on every single network across the board, it is now the biggest spender in advertising. How sad is that? You talk about make America healthy again. How sad is it that the biggest spender of television advertising, media advertising, everything, online, whatever, just advertising, is the pharmaceutical industry? There's a lot of corporations that agree we should make America healthy again. But when you start talking about their ad revenue, no matter who it is, whatever network you're talking about or online outlet, they're going to put up a fight like you've never seen before. So it would be great to be able to see the online ads, the pharmaceutical ads go away. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. All right, this all kind of ties in together with media and retail, which we talked about before to open it all up. Well, let's go over to Amazon Prime. So Jeff Bezos has a little site called Amazon. You might have heard of it. And Amazon Prime, which, by the way, also carries NFL games on the Thursday night games, isn't it, mostly? Well, they also apparently show classic movies. Now, I've never ventured over to Amazon Prime to watch a classic movie. I usually find it online somewhere else or go back to Netflix there. They have a version, and I believe it or not, heard from somebody in my personal life complaining about this first, and then I had to look it up online, and then I saw something trending. So apparently a lot of people tried to see this. It's a Wonderful Life on Amazon Prime. Now, I'll preface this by saying, I don't know why you would search for It's a Wonderful Life on Amazon Prime. It's kind of like on a loop constantly this time of the year. Like you can't avoid it. And you shouldn't avoid it. It's a great movie. I'll talk about that in a second. But Amazon Prime, gets this, has a condensed version of It's a Wonderful Life. You can't cut. That's one of the, you can't, no. The whole point of It's a Wonderful Life is you watch it from start to finish, as long as it is. It's as long as the 10 Commandments, but it's an awesome movie. You can't cut anything out of it. Apparently, it cuts out I hope you've seen this, so you know what I'm talking about. On the bridge scene where George is going to end it all, he goes from that to Clarence telling him he's going to have to clean up his life to it skips all of the nightmare scenes that he goes through. You know, like the lesson of his life to realize that he actually has it pretty good. It skips all of that. So George Bailey in his deepest depression, and it jumps right to he's back to reality. You can't do that to It's a Wonderful Life. Well, what? Just don't show it in the first place. I couldn't believe that was true. I thought that was another online hoax. No, there's no way you can shorten It's a Wonderful Life. They're not really doing that, are they? And I will tell you something about It's a Wonderful Life. I know. Probably, besides The Wizard of Oz, the most overplayed movie in American history. And it's worth it. I'm telling you. The older you get, the more you appreciate this movie. It's fantastic. All the little lines in there, the acting job, it might be the perfect movie. I've told you before, Godfather is my favorite movie of all time, but It's a Wonderful Life is amazing. And you realize, I don't know what it is. That movie gets me every single time, and I do watch the whole thing at least once a year, and you can't avoid it on the loop. It makes you realize what's important in life. You really do. Jimmy Stewart was fantastic. That entire cast was fantastic. Cut out It's a Wonderful Life. You can't do that. All right. Post-Christmas has begun. Welcome to Returnuary. I hope your Christmas was great, by the way. And happy Hanukkah to everybody celebrating, because that just kicked off last night as well. Still the holiday season. Still rolling on strong. Tomorrow is, God, what a weird week. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll kick off the weekend the right way with all kinds of stuff. I don't know what's in the news, but we'll find out, and we'll have something to talk about it and figure out what it all means. We'll still have the podcast up and ready to go, the audio podcast, wherever you get those in about a half hour. And if you're watching this later on the replay on X or Facebook or YouTube, thanks for hanging out. I hope you had an awesome Christmas, a wicked awesome Christmas, and we'll talk to you later.